She is Dr. Karen Barr with the Humane Society, and our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. And let's say good morning. Hi, how are you?
Good morning, Todd. I'm well. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. And we look forward to our conversations each month with the Humane Society, find out what's going on. And, well, right now, at this time of our history and Humane Society history, it's unlike any other time. My goodness gracious. Humane Society's been around forever, and yet facing challenges now that they never have, just as we never have in our society. So let's talk a little bit about your work with the Humane Society, why you decided to come on board, and well, just what the Humane Society is and what it does.
Okay. So, the Humane Society, as you said, has been around for a very long time. Right now, we support a humane officer. Her name is Officer Samantha McCoy. We mostly have dogs and cats. We have some horses, too, that are available for adoption. And we're really there to provide the best home we can while these animals wait for their forever homes.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to me as well that people sometimes get misconceptions about animal rescue groups, animal shelters, and one of those popular misconceptions is, what's the difference between a no-kill shelter and a shelter which is forced to euthanize their animals?
Well, the no-kill shelter terminology is a little bit confusing because most shelters can't really be strictly no-kill. What it really means is that shelters only euthanize in the event that an animal has a terminal illness, may have behavioral problems that can't be rehabilitated. And, our shelter, for whatever reason, it's probably historical, has the reputation that it is not a no-kill shelter, and we are. We don't euthanize for space. We don't take less desirable animals and put them aside. We are an adoption-guaranteed shelter, which means our animals come to the shelter, and we keep them for as long as needed to find them homes. Sometimes it takes a little bit of maneuvering, though, to find the room for them. Does overcrowding ever become a big issue? Absolutely. That's what one of the things that I'm trying to do now is determine what our capacity is, because we can stuff a lot of animals into a small space, but that doesn't mean that we're really caring for them humanely. Mm-hmm. So an animal needs to have the freedom to stretch out in their cage, to put their tail up, to get out of their cage every day. And if we have too many animals, we just can't provide them with the appropriate care. So sometimes we have to put a pause on our intake to make sure that we're giving the animals that we do have the best lives that we can. Yeah, I would guess that would impact as well the size of the animals and the types of the animals that you can accept at any given time. Absolutely. Our big dogs need a lot more space, which means they take up more space than a little dog would, obviously. Mm-hmm. But we're looking at our shelter now, trying to find ways to create more space so we can take more animals. We've been in the building about 5 years, and from my perspective, we're really low on space. So we're looking at how to make another cat colony, how to create room for dog enrichment. So that's definitely on the horizon. Yeah. Let's talk about the animal experience at the Humane Society. Mm-hmm. Of course, you're located out on Airport Road. Correct. Beautiful new shelter, and always looking for ways to improve the way of life for the animals that you have there. Walking them. I know you've got a great group of volunteers that come to help walk, and people can do that. But the overall animal experience, how are they fed? What's the schedule for vet care, for instance, for the various things that must be done in order to care for animals properly? Well, I'm glad you mentioned it. One of the things that I'm really happy with and proud of is that we've been able to get our vet clinic back up and going. And right now we have an in-house vet 2 days a week. Soon we will have a vet tech on site on another day, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Our animals have access to veterinary care, which is huge. So we don't have to take them to some other organization. We can care for them right in-house. That's cut down on illness, and being able to get them the care more quickly means that they're not going to get as sick also. Yeah.
Let's talk about folks who want to adopt a pet from the Humane Society. Is that easier right now or more difficult? I would imagine more difficult in this COVID-19 thing.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. Unfortunately, we have so many great animals, so many great pets just waiting. And we've made it a little bit more difficult for adopters because they can't really come in and browse anymore. People used to be able to come in and look around and see who they might connect with. And unfortunately, due to COVID, now we require an online application. We like to approve the application, and then we invite them for an appointment to meet the animals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there a way for people to actually find information about the animals an online way or some other way?
Oh, of course. So we have a website, www.incohumanesociety.com. Mm-hmm. We also have a Facebook page. And all of our pets and their pictures can be found on Pet Finder. Along with that, one of the things that we've added is a little bio about each animal. It's not just information about their age and their breed. It's what they like, what they don't like, if we know whether or not they're good with other animals or children. So I think that's really helpful for potential adopters.
We're talking to Dr. Karen Barr. She is now not only helping out, but she's the executive director of the Indiana County Humane Society. And you, of course, are a medical doctor, and you have an extensive career. Tell me about making the transition from that sort of care for for humans to care for animals. Was that a difficult or a pretty easy transition?
Well, it's been challenging in some ways. I have a lot of education, but I don't have a lot of experience other than volunteering. But sheltering, good sheltering is not difficult to learn. It's still caretaking. It's still managing people. And so things like operations are not new to me. They're just a little bit different. So I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It has been a challenge.
You are an ICU doc. I mean, you're used to critical care patients, and so a little bit less pressure, I would guess, at the Humane Society. But talk a little bit about making that transition.
Well, so I had resigned from my job as an ICU physician, was taking a little bit of time off, and was spending 5 days a week out at the Humane Society. And having experience as a volunteer in Pittsburgh at the Humane Animal Rescue gave me perspective to be able to see some of the things that could be easily changed to improve the lives of the animals. Mm-hmm. So, it's I'm working 25% as a critical care physician and 75% as the shelter manager, and they go together fairly well.
Yeah. Also, you're still doing people doctoring, huh?
Yes. Well, having been doing it for 20 years, it's a little bit tough to give up.
Don't ever get confused and ask somebody to wag their tail. Dr. Karen Barr with us here this morning on Indiana in the Morning. So what's coming up? When we have others here, Beth Finnegan is a frequent guest for the Humane Society. She always has something. We've got something coming up at the Humane Society that wants people to know about. So what is coming up?
Well, one of the big things that's happening is that this month we're going to be opening up our low-cost spay and neuter clinic to the public. Prior to that, we've been working with Four-Footed Friends and other organizations to work to help them get their animals spayed and neutered. And now we're at a point where we can offer those services back open to the public, which is huge, especially this is kitten season. We really want to make sure that all of our animals are spayed and neutered. We already have a problem with overpopulation. So sure. That will be advertised on Facebook and on our website, and that should be within the next 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. We also have a black cat special going on. The black cats seem to get passed over a little bit. We have over probably 25 black cats. So our black cats, you can get a black cat for $30 for the next 2 weeks.
That sale would probably be really good around Halloween time, too, wouldn't it?
They're good luck.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
And I know that during this transition from red into yellow, there have been things that have been newly available for just the general population that we can do now that we couldn't have done a couple of weeks ago. When you go green, will there be other things that are available or other services available from the Humane Society? Would it just be easier to work with?
I think it'll be easier to work with once we go to green, but it's still, trying to balance keeping everyone safe. The building itself, there's not a lot of open space, so social distancing is really hard. But, I really want to improve access to the animals for the public, but to do it safely.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, always the animals at the Humane Society, the society itself, they need financial help. And usually there's a big stack of fundraisers that Beth can tell us about. But those activities have had to be curtailed by the pandemic as well. So I know that you'd just like to take the opportunity to tell people that you need their help.
We do. We've had some very, very generous donors with money and supplies. But, yes, since we can't do any fundraising whatsoever, and that's a huge source of our income, we're struggling as everybody else is. So, but I want to take the opportunity to thank all the people that help us every day. Really appreciate their time, their effort, and their donations.
Can people still volunteer at the Humane Society?
They can. We don't have a lot of volunteers coming in at the moment, and that's one of the next parts of going from yellow to green would be to bring those volunteers back, and we're going to try and get our volunteer orientation back and going so we can bring more people in. We just need to do it in a more controlled fashion, have people sign up rather than show up unannounced.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Dr. Karen Barr, it's been fun. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much.
Have a
Appreciate
wonderful
your
day.
Time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tell the doggies we said hello.
I will.
I'm not a cat person, so don't tell them I said anything.
Mom's the word.
Okay. We'll see you.
Okay. Thanks, Todd.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS AM 1160 and 101.1 FM, 101.1 FM.